welcome to round 5 of the GT3 Championship hosted by Apex Online Racing. This is for Tier 7, but before we get into the next round's action, let's have a brief recap of the events that took place at Bathurst. Drivers going into this round very concerned about getting around the mountain safely. It's always a challenge, it's very narrow, very tight, walls on either side, so the smallest mistake and you got instant damage on your car. And those worries were proven correct on the opening lap. This is just over Skyline. Car going into the wall on the left. And then right behind it, two more spinners. Partially blocking the road, so instantly causing a split in the field on the opening lap. But Baker, who qualified on pole and led the field round, overcooked it on the final corner of the first lap. Slid off and into the wall and dropped away from the lead of the race. And that was the pattern for the rest of the race, mostly characterised by mistakes by everybody. Kagsep going into the wall at the top of the mountain on the first lap. Becker, usually a contender, on the second lap. BeesWax Racing Steve Bezic also losing it in the cutting, and as a consequence a lap or two later being overtaken by Oppenheisen. Coming up towards Quarry. Later in the race, Nyns, who was being passed by Steve Bezic. Both BeesWax Racing cars against each other, going down Conrad Straight, and the pass completed as they came into the chase. But halfway through the race, Watson in second span out going down the mountain and was trapped against the barriers as most of the field came through, so second place car dropping right out of contention at the halfway point. Watson waited and waited, and just as he was about to try and get turned around, mistimed it, and a car came round the corner, unsighted, T-boned him in the side, and then looked possibly like O'Brien there, who was currently in 8th place, also into the accident. But coming into the end of the race, it's Bagil who's in 3rd, but he looks like he's losing pace here on Conrad Straight. Cooley's closing in quickly, moves on the outside of him, taking the inside of the right-hander that's coming up. So Cooley takes 3rd, Bagil pushed down into 4th. There's not many laps left in this race, but just a lap or two later, it's Kagsep, who had a bit of a torrid time in this event, dropped right down the field and had to come back again. Well, looks like Kagsep's going through on the McLaren as well. So Bagil now dropping back into 4th place. And Lord Nem, who'd done very well in this race, who's up to P11 at this point, but suddenly loses the back end and ends up having to pit with just a few laps to go. He's dropping right out of contention while he's put for repairs. But across the line in 1st place is Hendrik Sauwas, taking the victory at Bathurst. 2nd place eventually it was Cooley. Another good haul of points for Vitti's Hobnob's team. And in 3rd place it's Kagsep, coming back from that collision with the wall early on in the race, which put him right out the running. But finishing in 3rd is a good result. So looking at the Drivers' Championship before we go into Imola, Matt Cooley of Vitti's Hobnobs still heads the table. His consistent run of form with good results in every round means he's got 317 points, 80 points clear of 2nd place Wilfred Bagil. Hendrik Sauwas, who didn't partake in round 1 as he hadn't joined the league at that point, he's in 3rd place with 232 points. Ivor Kagsep is in 4th. With one bad result at Suzuka, but very good results in all the other rounds so far. Jason Dyer is in 5th. Jason's missed 2 rounds so far, as he's been unable to get to the races, so still pretty good performance, but there seems to be a small gap forming now between the lead 4 and the rest of the table. Paul Hinsley of Big Boatley is in 6th place. Started off strongly this season, but has had not so good results in Hungary and at Bathurst, dropping down the field. Ben Hitchcock of the 488 team is in 7th place, with a bad result at Monza at the start of the season, but pretty steady results since then. Rob Fodor is in 8th place, having failed to finish at Bathurst. Jamie Ellis is in 9th place, with not so good a result, but I think Jamie suffered a disconnection, which is the same thing I suffered for on this round, which put him well down the field. John Baker of FTW RacingSimTools.com rounds out the top 10 Drivers' Championship, but he also had a difficult time at Bathurst as we saw him spin and get stuck against the wall quite early on in the race. Looking at the team's championship, Maviti's Hobnobs consisted of Matt Cooley and Tripp. They have a good haul of points, 375, mostly down to Matt Cooley's excellent results, bringing in some big points for them. They're 54 points clear of the 488 team of Luca Ziga and Ben Hitchcock. In third place is FTW Racing, RacingSimTools.com of Dan Smith and John Becker. They're a further 53 points behind the 488 team. Fourth place is Big Boatley with Paul Hinsley and Paul Scott, 240 points. And then there's a bit of a gap between the front four and the remaining four of the team's championship. BeesWax Racing of Nyns and Steve Bezic, they're in fifth place with 156 points. Phoenix Racing of Lord Nem and Radomir Kazierski are in sixth, just 17 points behind the BeesWax boys. In seventh place is TWG Racing, Dami Ayo and Sindri Ragnarsson at 127 points. Rounding out the team's championship table, it's Mercs and Recreation of Vasilis Amiglas and Andrei Kuchar with 109 points. So moving on to the results of qualifying. Weather conditions at Imola are quite good, but it's quite cool. So it's a nice dry clear day, but it's only 20 degrees with a temperature of 16 degrees. Qualifying on pole is Rob Fodor with a time of 1:41.1. Pretty quick around the Imola circuit. Alongside him is Matt Cooley of Maviti's Hobnobs. Finally I got round to fixing that team name. On row 2 it's Ivor Kangset qualifying well again, third place alongside Brandon Baker. On row 3 it's Jordan Watson, fifth place, but he's got a stop-go penalty of 30 seconds to take at the start of the race following penalties handed down by the stewards. Alongside him it's Harlan Hatter. On row 4 in 7th place it's Luca Ziga of the 488 team alongside Wilfred Bagil. Row 5 it's ex-FSR Torpedo alongside Ben Hitchcock of the 488 team. Row 6 in P11 it's James Fresh, a new driver to the Tier 7 alongside Hendrik Sarwas. Row 7 is Nick Kononov alongside Dami Ayo of TWG Racing. Row 8 John Becker of FTW Racing, RacingSimTools.com is alongside Marcin Orjaz. Row 9 is Tomago Tonzitic alongside Pablo Loro, another new driver into Tier 7 for this round. Row 10 in P19 is Carol Piquera alongside Daniel Smith, the other FTW RacingSimTools.com driver. On row 11 in P21 it's Andrei Kuchar of Mercs and Recreation alongside Matt O'Brien. Row 12 it's Kevin Runseng alongside Tripp of Maviti's Hobnobs. Row 13 Conal McCarthy alongside Sindri Ragnarsson of TWG Racing. Row 14 P27 for Daniel Oppenheisen this week alongside P28 Steve Bezic of BeesWax Racing. Row 15 and P29 is Jamie Ellis, qualifying quite low down for Jamie, he's normally a bit further up than that, alongside Nyns of BeesWax Racing, who this week is behind his teammate. Not that I'm dwelling on that in any way. Row 16 and P31 is George Darras alongside Adam Bowers. And on row 17 is Peter Pizet alongside Uros Huzjak. For the majority of the field, just 2 seconds covering all drivers. So very, very tight in terms of pace for the Imola circuit. It's time to move on to the main race, and we join the pack just as they're crossing the start-finish line, and the lights have turned green and they're away, coming down towards the first complex of corners at Traguardo and Tamburello. Tight left-hander and right-hander, these corners introduced as a result of Senna's accident. And then it's onto a short straight before the Villeneuve chicane. There was a slight collision there, looked like it was Kangset yet again getting involved in a bit of an incident on the opening lap. Through Villeneuve and it's onto the Tosa hairpin, and this will be the location of probably a number of overtaking opportunities through the race. Somebody just losing the rear end of the car a little bit there, coming out of Tosa. Up the hill into Piratella. Underneath the sign, and then you brake hard and turn left and descend down towards Acqua Minerale. One of the more technically challenging areas of the track. You're coming downhill, have to brake hard, and it's a very, very tight right-hander to climb up to the next most challenging corner on the circuit, the Variante Alta. Most of the pack looks like they're keeping it clean. No major accidents, just those two cars going off on the first corner that we could see. They're all through the variante Alta, and they're up over the crest of the hill, and it's downhill then into one of the other technically challenging areas of this track. Downhill braking makes Rivazza 1 and 2 quite difficult to get correct. You can see drivers jostling for position. That's Rivazza 1 and that's Rivazza 2, and it's back onto the start-finish straight. And that completes the first lap of the Imola circuit. And 1 more hour to go before we'll find out who'll take victory in this round. So instantly on lap 2, Alan Hatter being threatened by ex-FSR Torpedo as they come in towards Trambarello. Hatter catches too much curb there, ends up going wide on onto the grass, and that's given an opportunity for Torpedo to get through, and he's taken it along with Hitchcock behind him. I think Bagil's trying to get through as well, so small mistake by Hatter's, let 3 cars through. And he's got Kononov breathing down his neck, so he slips right down the field there into 7th. See the same incident from another angle. See how much curb he catches. It's all over the show. Much better speed from Hitchcock there, coming through, and then Bagil follows Hitchcock. Hatter dropping a little bit down the field. So later on the same lap, Hatter still trying to recover from that. He's behind Bagil, just ahead of him, coming down into Rivazza. But that was too ambitious, took to the grass, swung wide, and a number of cars have got through there. I saw Dami Ayo go through, and Loro. Maybe Piquera's just behind them, so that collision has cost them both a number of places. At least Hatter appeared to let Bagil back through, having made that small mistake. Hatter's race, having qualified quite high up, he's not having a good opening couple of laps. He's fallen a long way down the field, and it looks like Piquera's got him as well there. Little touch, but they're both okay. Oh no, Piquera caught the curb then, and that allowed Hatter back through. Another angle. Hard to tell whether it was net code or a little tap at the back, but it might have been enough to put Piquera off. Hatter retains that place, but Piquera's under attack then. And pick up with Domagoj Tonzitek on Peter Pise. Peter seems to be struggling a little bit in the Porsche, goes very wide there, catches the grass. It's easy for Dominic. It looked like Ragnarsson and Uschak also trying to get through there on Peter. But on lap 3, our front runners, Fodor and Cooley, catching up on a back marker there. I think that might be Jamie Ellis. And what it's really put Fodor off is he's hit the curb, and that's opened the door for Cooley. So an exchange of places at the front of a race, possibly caused by Jamie Ellis just being in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's still in front of both those cars. So I'm sure Fodor is cursing. He needed a good result this week to make up for Bathurst. Ellis goes wide on the Tosa hairpin to let them both through. Damage is done now. Cooley's in front, Fodor into 2nd place. And we're only 6 laps in as we pick up Dami Ayo. Going through Acqua Minerale and up the hill towards the Variante Alta. And there's that Bagil getting past him. It looks like it is. Bagil gets to the chicane first. Oh, had to top it off. Dami has a very bad Variante Alta, loses another place. That looked like Loro's gone through on him as well. So Dami Ayo dropping 2 places there, just 6 laps into the race. Pick up with Piquera just coming into the Tamburello complex of corners. And he catches the inside curb there quite badly. Comes across the Nissan of Hatter. Hatter gets through, and O'Brien's following him through as well. Piquera's desperately trying to hang on, but he's also got Fresh in his Ferrari coming up on him. He's lost those 2 places to those Nissans, but he's managed to keep fresh behind him as they come into the Tosa hairpin. Another small mistake causing loss of places. On lap 6 with Steve Bezic of BeesWax Racing coming up on the Porsche of Peter Pise, who we saw going wide coming out of Tosa, but this one is down into Rivazza 1 and 2, and Peter did slide wide there off Rivazza, and the BeesWax Racing car just managed to avoid him, but he's through and away and following him. The other cars behind, looks like McCarthy and Bowyer's trying to get past Peter at the same time. Up until lap 8 on Wilfred Brigil, being attacked by Pablo Loro, his first race. Pablo in the Ferrari does a big dive going into Rivazza 1 there. Managed to get up the inside of Brigil. That was a good pass. Very, very late on the brakes. So Pablo Loro moves up into 8th place. Brigil not having a great set of opening laps here. Slowly moved backwards, really. Currently second in the Drivers' Championship, so wants to get a better result than the last time out. Pablo Loro then makes a mistake. Goes very, very wide going into Tamburello. And that allows Ojaz through, and possibly a number of other cars as well. I think I just saw Damiayo flash through the picture. So Loro dropping from 9th. He's behind Matt O'Brien. He looks like he'll be down into 12th, quite possibly as a result of that, Pablo. Lap 14 and trip coming up on Andre Kuchar. Andre's gone very, very wide again in Tamburello. A number of drivers making that mistake. He'll lost a lot of speed, definitely allowing Tripp through there. So Tripp will be up to 14th place now. So the McVitie's digestive car, McVitie's hobnob, sorry, going straight past the Mercs and Recreation driver. In lap 15, Carol Piquera in the red Ferrari coming up on Adam Bowers in the white Ferrari. And this is coming up towards Peratella, and Piquera made that one look very, very easy. Good move up the inside, so Piquera doing a good move there. Number of good overtakes in this race so far. Lap 16, it's Tripp again, and it's Andre Kuchar again. They must have exchanged places somewhere. Almost free wide there as they're coming up towards the Tosa hairpin. Tripp on the outside, brave move. I think Kuchar's going to hold on to that place, the side by side, but he's going to get up towards Peratella in front. Yes, Kuchar's going to hold on to that position. Lap 17 with Jordan Watson, who had that nightmare last week at Bathurst, getting stuck against the wall. Coming up on Uros Husjak. This is for, and Husjak's gone very wide there, caught the gravel trap. Easy pass in the end for Watson. Watson moving up there into 11th place, Husjak down into 12th. And he's off up the hill towards Peratella. Lap 19, Daniel Smith, Aero Smudge. He's got Kevin Runsenk closing on him very quickly. Kevin in the Aston Martin. He's going up towards Peratella. Dan takes the inside line to try and defend, but the Aston just sweeps around the outside. I'm not sure if Dan lifted there to let him through. And a little bit further round on lap 19. It's the start of the pit stops. Matt Cooley pulls into the pits from the lead, and at this point Fodor's already pitted and he's back out again, so Becker's in second place at the moment. Then Becker pulls in straight away behind him as well, and that means that Dami Ayo, taking a leaf no doubt from Nils Nyns' book from the other week at the Hungaroring, moves into first place. So Dami Ayo leading the race at the midway point as everybody starts to commence their pit stops. Brandon Baker attacking Jamie Ellis on lap 21. Jamie, by this point, in 17th place. Baker's got the inside line for the first part of Tamburello. Jamie catches a bit of curb. You know, a little bit of touch. But Baker's through. Another pass. Tries to move away up the field. It's Baker at the start of the race, who seems to have it coming together with Kantek. Put them both out. And lap 23 now. Now Baker's caught Dan Smith a few laps later. Dan's made a mistake on the approach up to the Villeneuve chicane coming up towards Tosa. Baker's clean and easily through there before they even get to Tosa. Dan Smith slips back into the place into 16th. Baker now into 15th place. This is on lap 24, and Nyns of BeesWax Racing against Jamie Ellis, side by side as they go through Piratella. Still side by side as they go into Acqua Minerale. Surely Jamie's going to have better speed, but Nyns has got the inside line, forced Jamie wide. Jamie's definitely in the better position for the chicane of Variante Alta. That does get ahead. Got Andre Kuchar in the background, trying to capitalise on these two fighting each other. But it looks like Jamie Ellis has got that one safe now. He's well in front of Nyns as they come down Rivazza 1 and 2. Oh, Kuchar took avoiding action then and went straight off the track to the side. Must have slammed the brakes on hard as Nyns was braking for Rivazza 1, overcooked it a little bit, so that's put Kuchar out there running a little bit. That'll allow Kononov and BeesWax Racing, Steve Bezic up, but there's still a bit of a gap. And Nyns tries again as they come towards the end of a lap and start the next one. So Nyns on the inside for Tragado, first part of Trambarello, but Nyns completely overcooks it, goes into the gravel trap. Now he is in front of Jamie Ellis, but he can't hang on to that place surely. Nope. He pulls over to the side and lifts and lets Jamie Ellis come back through before they get to the Villeneuve chicane. We'll have to try again. He's coming to Tosa. As a result of that, Jamie's quite clear. I'm not sure if Nyns can be able to mount another attack. So into lap 25. It's Andre Kuchar. This is where he had to slam on the brakes and went off. And he did allow both Kononov and Steve Bezic through a BeesWax Racing. Kuchar dropped back a couple of places there. You see Darras and a couple of other cars close behind, so a very tight battle. Even though we're all the way 25 laps in, these cars are all still very, very close to each other. Lap 27 now. And there is that battle just behind for the group of cars we just saw. It's Jordan Watson and George Darras. Darras goes, leaps up the inside, outbrakes going into Rivazza 1. Little tap from Darras, a little tap again on Rivazza 2 coming out. But at the end of it all, Watson is ahead. Darras is behind. And at 27 laps, we're with Fodor in second place. I don't know what happened there. He just suddenly seemed to, the car just seemed to just slide away from him. Going through Villeneuve chicane, he went heavy into the wall. Look at the damage on the front of our Audi. So Fodor was in second place. And I think, as we'll see over the next few laps, that small slip in the Villeneuve chicane cost Fodor dear. He was only 5 seconds behind Cooley at this point, and we're not too far from the end of the race. But on lap 28, Luca Ziga in the Ferraris caught Fodor, who was still carrying that damage. The race is so tight that if Fodor did pit for repairs, he would drop completely out of the order. So he must be carrying heavy damage and losing a lot of speed, because Ziga's straight through. That puts Ziga into second place, Fodor back to third. But how many places is Fodor going to lose over these last few laps following that collision with the wall? Lap 29, Fodor's had to take to the gravel trap at Trambarello. And that's allowed Harlan Hatter through. Harlan's right behind him there as they come down towards the Villeneuve chicane. I don't think Fodor's got any defence against these attacks, so Hatter's through. That'll put him into third, Fodor down to fourth. And right behind Fodor, Brazil. Can't be too far away. Fodor will be desperate for the end of the race to come as soon as possible to try and preserve as many places as he can. Did take Brazil the whole of the rest of the lap to catch him though, because they're going over the start-finish line. before Bagil's been able to catch him up. Wide around the outside, he's got the inside for the upcoming Trambarello complex. And in the end, Bagil's well in front before they reach the first part of the corner. Fodo's got his hazard lights on, the damage is that bad. To let everybody know he's carrying an ailing car, lap 30. And much to Fodo's dismay, looks like another place might be lost. He's got XFSR Torpedo closing in rapidly. Fodo slips down into 6th, all the way down from 2nd place. He must be gutted to be losing so many places just the last few laps of the race. You just see Ivor Kangsep in the background, being the next one to try and pass him. We're on lap 31. Steve Bezic being threatened by Jordan Watson. And Steve Bezic makes a mistake this time. BeesWax Racing catches Stu McCurb into the gravel trap. And it's not just Watson, it's also Andre Kuchar that goes through. Dropping 2 places there right towards the end of the race. There aren't many laps to go. And eventually, yes, Kangsep does catch Fodo. Lap 31, Kangsep goes through, same place as Bagil, coming up towards Trambarello. Kangsep into 6th place, Fodo down to 7th. Is he going to lose any more places before the end of the race? We're in lap 32. This time it's George Darras being attacked by Domagoj Tonzetic. There are a number of cars lined up behind him as well. Domagoj's in the McLaren. Darras is in the gold-coloured Aston Martin. But both Tonzetic and Watson went through there on Darras. Watson's trying hard. He's trying to get the inside of Tonzetic. And I think he's forced him to really slow down there for Rivatsa 1. Lap 33, Rob Fodor. This time it's John Becker, so more places being lost by Fodor from the looks of things. And this race just doesn't seem to end for him anytime soon. And not only has he got Becker going through him as he goes through Tamburello, he's got Dami Ayo as well, so I think he's going to lose 2 places in just a few corners. Dami Ayo has definitely got the speed to get through. And just behind Ayo, it's a new driver to the Tier 7, it's Fresh. We'll find out in the final results if Fodor was able to hang on. But before we get to the end of the race, maybe we'll pick out perhaps what could be considered to be driver of the day. Ivor Kangsep, this is on the opening lap. T1 comes together with Baker and ends up in the gravel trap. Tumbles right down the field. He's still on the grass at this point, as most of the field all still quite tightly packed together at the very start of the race. Kangsep eventually gets back on the straight coming up towards the Villeneuve chicane, but he's dropped down from 3rd position now. I think he eventually ends up 24th place on the opening lap. So everything to do yet again. Seems to be Kangsep's race every week seems to go this way. He always seems to end up coming down the field in some way and having to drive back. Really closely packed field here. Kangsep currently showing 21st. Trying to attack Jamie Ellis there on the first lap, but doesn't make it stick. He's down in 21st at this point. So we're into lap 2 at the moment. And he's having to battle with George Darras. So a few laps further on. And now with other drivers making mistakes, Kangsep's up to 17th. Tries a move up the inside of Rivatsa on Runseng. Gets back onto the main start-finish straight. He's got Tripp all over the back of him. He looks like he's got good speed on the main straight there as they're coming up towards Tragado, Trambarello. Not enough. Still behind the Aston Martin, Brunseng. it's Kononov who makes a mistake as they're going through the Villeneuve chicane. So Rungsing's through on Kononov, and so is Kangsep. So place is made up there by both of those drivers. So as they come up the climb towards Piratella, the Honda of Kangseg is in front of Kononov. So here's a place that's been made up there. But as we're coming up to Tamburello on the very next lap, both Rungsing and Kangsep end up going straight into the gravel trap. And that allows Kononov to come back through. So it's up and down for Kangseg at this point in the race. Just a little while later, as we're going through Aqua Minerale, Kononov definitely made a mistake there. Seemed to catch a lot of curb, lost a lot of speed, and Kangsep had more speed. By the time to get to Variante Alta, Kangseg's through. And we're looking to rebuild his momentum again. Just a couple of laps later, going down the start-finish straight, now closing right up on Rungsing, who's been giving him a hard time. He's had a lot of trouble getting past the Aston Martin. The Aston makes a mistake, catches the curbs quite badly, goes into the air, and Kangsep is through. At last he's got past the Aston Martin that's he's been battling for quite some time. So on lap 17, Kangsep finally pitted. At this point he was in 6th place, but all the positions are a bit mixed up as everybody starts to execute their pit stop strategies. Kangsep rejoins the track, and it takes the computer a few corners to settle things out. But Kangsep rejoins, and when it pans out, he's in 15th place. So not much further up from where we left him, just after he got past Rungsing. Sandwich between Matt O'Brien and ex-FSR Torpedo. And lap 27. As he's pursuing Becker, you saw Becker then just off to the back. You see him in the background recovering. So that will put Kangsep back into 8th place at this point. So he slowly made his way back through the field. From, remember, virtually the back of the field right at the very start of the race, following that coming together with Baker. Now his next target will be Ben Hitchcock. But Ben makes a mistake going into Villeneuve, a mistake a lot of drivers made today, and that allowed Kangsep through to take 7th. Kangsep still behind ex-FSR Torpedo. So when we saw him come out the pits, he was behind Torpedo. So his place is made up as other drivers in front pitted. Lap 31, and this is the pass that we saw just a few minutes ago. Another pass by Kangsep on Fodor. It's coming all the way back from P24 on lap 21. He's made it all the way up to P6. Once again, another remarkable drive by Kangsep to come from the back of the field. So Matt Cooley of McVitie's Hobnobs takes his first victory in Season 6 of the GT3 Championship for Tier 7. Once he'd got past Fodor with that mix-up with Jamie Ellis as back marker early doors, he never relinquished the lead. In second place is Luca Ziga of the 488 team, bringing home a good haul of points for their team championship hopes. And in third place, it's Harlan Hatter, who had a difficult time. We saw him drop down the field at the start of the race, but he managed to keep going, keep persevering, and he got himself back up into third position. Right behind him, Wilfred Bugil. As for the BeesWax Racing entries, Nils Nyns, who decided to play in the sand here on the very last corner, desperately trying to throw away a place, it would appear, to Andre Kuchar, who's right behind him. But no, Andre was denied, so Nils crossing the line in 17th position in the end. And whilst that was semi-dramatic of Nils' own making there, the other BeesWax Racing car had a very tense final lap, having held off Tonzetic and Darras and Watson for a number of laps, stuck behind Kononov. But in the final lap, in the final few hundred yards, Kononov just pulled over and slowed right down and appeared to have run out of fuel right on the line, which let the BeesWax Racing car through. So Steve Bezic made up a position right on the line. So let's have a look at the official race results of round 5 of the Season 6 GT3 Championship for Tier 7. Matt Cooley takes victory for McVitie's Hobnobs. In second place, it's Luca Ziga of the 488 team, and Harlan Hatter came in third. Fourth was Wilfred Bagil. Fifth was ex-FSR Torpedo. Sixth, with that remarkable drive from virtually the back of the field, was Ivor Kangset. In seventh place, it's John Becker of FTW Racing, RacingSimTools.com. Dami Ayo finished in 8th for TWG Racing. James Fresh, in his first outing in Tier 7, came in 9th. Ben Hitchcock of the 488 team finished in 10th. Of the other drivers, the other FTW Racing, RacingSimTools.com driver, Dan Smith, was 16th. Nils Nyns of BeesWax Racing was 17th. Andrei Kuchar of Mercs and Recreation got 18th this week. Steve Bezic of BeesWax Racing was confirmed as 19th, as Nick Kononov finished in 20th, managed to get across the line despite having run out of fuel at the very last second. Sindri Ragnarsson of TWG Racing, by his own admission, had a bit of a nightmare race. He was 30th, and Tripp of McVitie's Hobnobs, something went wrong for him towards the end of the race. He finished in 31st, but he was looking a lot faster than that earlier on. Looking at the Drivers' Championship as we come away from round 5, Matt Cooley of McVitie's Hobnobs consolidates his lead in the Drivers' Championship. He now has 417 points and is 107 points clear of Wilfred Bagil, who's moved up into second place. Ivor Kangset also moves well up the table following that good drive today. He's now in third place. Luca Ziga of the 488 team moves into fourth. Hendrik Sauwas, who was not able to finish this week, is now in 5th place. Ben Hitchcock of the 488 team moves down into 6th place. John Becker of FTW Racing, RacingSimTools.com, moves up a couple of places to 7th. Rob Fodor, who had that disastrous collision with the wall right towards the end of the race, which cost him many places, he drops down 4 places on the championship to 8th. Jason Dyer, who again was not present this week, he drops down to 9th. Paul Hinsley, another non-racer this week, a big boat late, rounds out the Drivers' Championship in 10th place. Looking at the Teams' Championship with just 3 rounds to go, it's McVitie's Hobnobs of Matt Cooley and Tripp who head up the table, unmoved from the previous round. The 488 team, Luca Ziga and Ben Hitchcock, they are now just 20 points behind the McVitie's Hobnobs team, so it's still pretty close, with a number of races yet to go. Third place remains FTW Racing, RacingSimTools.com, Dan Smith and John Becker. Fourth place is Big Boatley, Paul Hinsley and Paul Scott. I don't believe either driver was present this week, so they're looking to hold on to fourth. BeesWax Racing, though, will have significantly closed in the gap. Nils Nyns and Steve Bezic now just 36 points behind Big Boatley. TWG Racing are in 6th. Dami Ayo had a pretty good result today. Sindri Ragnarsson had a nightmare he wants to forget, but they're at 184 points and move up 1 place on the table. Phoenix Racing, Lord Nem certainly wasn't here this week, and I don't recall seeing Radomir Gajewski, so they slipped down the table. Mercs and Recreation round off the Team Championship with Vasilis Amidlas and Andrei Kuchar with 133 points. So this concludes the action from Imola for round 5. A very, very tight race with all the drivers very close to each other, still at the end of 60 minutes of racing. Next round will be taking place at the South African track of Kailami. It's always popular. The weather prediction is the weather's going to be dry, but it's going to be a night race. So in addition to the darkness, we're probably going to have to deal with a very, very cool track. But that rounds out all the action and results from Imola. Please, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to catch future highlights as they are released. And we'll see you at the next event. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.